Hello children, this is Miss Supriti, your English teacher. Let us begin today's lesson. Today's lesson is on your first chapter of English textbook. But before that, I would like you to share any 5 good qualities about your elder sibling, maybe your brother or sister. Just think about it and keep it in your mind. Once the school reopens, we can share it with the class. So let us begin. Today's lesson is your first chapter, that is My Big Brother, written by Mushi Premchand. Before I begin the lesson, let us know a little bit about the writer Mushi Premchand. Dhanpat Rai Srivastava, better known by his pen name Mushi Premchand, was an Indian writer famous for his modern Hindustani literature. He is one of the most celebrated writers of the Indian subcontinent and is regarded as one of the foremost Hindi writers of the early 20th century. His works illustrate everyday heroes and address social concerns and have inspired many other Indian writers. His works have been translated into English and Russian. So here down you can see some of his notable works, and also if you want to know more about Mushi Premchand, you can just Google it and just have the information about him. Now let us move on to the chapter My Big Brother. As you can see on your screen, your first chapter is the first page of your lesson, where you have some questions as starter questions. I would like you to think about it and just note it down in your textbook itself. Who is the most important person in your life? Who influences you the most? Reflect on your relationship with that person and fill the table below. What do I value most about this relationship? What are the things that cause or can cause unpleasantness in this relationship? What is the one thing that I could do to improve this relationship? So you think about the most important person in your life and how it influences you the most, and just write it down in the textbook so that once the school reopens, we can discuss about it. Now let us move on to the chapter My Big Brother. Here is a story about the relationship between two brothers. My big brother was 5 years older than me, but only 3 years ahead of me at school. He had begun school at the same age as I had, but he did not like to be in undue haste in such an important matter as education. He wanted to lay a very solid foundation so that a magnificent structure could be raised upon it. So he spent 2 years where only one was needed, and sometimes even 3. How can one raise a strong building on a weak foundation? I was 9 and he was 14. When he was in class 9, I was in class 5. It was his birthright to admonish me, and I was expected to accept his commands as the law. So here we see that the narrator is narrating about his elder brother, who is 5 years older than him, and but still then he is 3 years ahead of him at school. And his elder brother thinks that we should not be in a hurry, we should not be in extreme haste to in a matter such as education, and he always wanted to place a very strong foundation in order to build a very bright future. So he thinks that it is better to spend 2 years where we can spend 1 year. He feels that it is better to spend 2 years and sometimes even 3 years to lay a very strong foundation. The writer was 9 years old and his elder brother was 14 years old, but his elder brother was in class 9 and he was in class 5, and the narrator here also feels that his elder brother has all the right to admonish him, to scold him, and everybody believes that the narrator should accept all his scoldings as his commands and as his law. So here children, you can see that the story is narrated in first person by an unnamed man whom we consider as the narrator or the writer, and when he was a young boy. It also becomes very clear that the writer wants us to explore the theme of the story on the basis of innocence and education. And we also feel that the narrator is still afraid of his brother, though not afraid enough to stop playing with his friends. So here in these 2 paragraphs, we feel that the elder brother gives emphasis on laying a very strong foundation in order to build a very bright future or a future career, whereas the narrator does not feel like that, and he feels that the elder brother has all the right to admonish him. Let us move on to the next page. My elder brother was studious by nature, always glued to his books. I never felt at home with books. To sit with a book for an hour was like climbing a mountain. At the first opportunity, I would walk out of the hostel into the open ground and toss pebbles into the air, or fly paper butterflies, and I felt happier still if I could find a companion. We would jump across the walls or ride upon the gates and swing them to and fro to enjoy a motor ride. But the moment I returned to the room, I would freeze in my tracks to see my brother's red face. His first question would be, "Where have you been?" Always the same question in the same tone. And my answer was silence. I don't know why I couldn't tell him that I had just gone out to play. My silence proclaimed that I accepted my crime, and my brother would greet me with indignant words. "If you study like this, you will learn nothing. Learning English is no child's play. Otherwise, everybody and his cousin would be regular experts in English. You have to strain your eyes and drain your blood. Only then can one attain this knowledge. Even great scholars can't write correct English, and you are such a blockhead that you don't learn from my example. See how hard I work. Have you ever seen me going out to attend any shows and fairs? Even then, I am stuck in each class for 2 to 3 years. You will fritter your whole life away studying in one class. Why waste father's hard-earned money?" Listening to this tongue lashing, I would burst into tears. My brother was an expert at the art of giving advice. His pointed comments, like aphoristic arrows, would pierce my heart and demoralize me. I would sink into hopelessness and think of going home. So, children, here we see that the narrator is still afraid of his brother, though not afraid enough to stop himself from playing with his friends. If anything, the narrator sees very little value in studying, unlike his brother, who spends every waking hour either in school or in studying. This may be very important, as a narrator is still too young to look upon his education as being significant. Rather, for the narrator, studying and school is a chore, something he does but does not like doing. Another interesting thing is that the fact that the narrator's brother speaks wise words to the narrator, it is as though he is speaking from his own experience. We can see here how he tongue lashes him by saying that if you will not strain your eyes, if you will not drain your blood, if you will not hard work, then you can never pass in your examination. And if you don't want to study, if you always want to play, then why you are wasting your father's hard-earned money? So these tongue lashing, these harsh words, these loud, severe scolding will always make the narrator feel very sad and disappointed. And sometimes he feels hopelessness and think of going home back. It is also as if the narrator's elder brother wants to share his experience of life with his younger brother, so which he is considering that he has failed so many times in school exams. The fact that the narrator's brother also draws on his parents when lecturing the narrator might also be very, very important. If anything, the narrator's brother is trying to teach the narrator is only a lesson about his own life. Come to the next page. Why should I waste my life doing something that was beyond my powers? My head would reel, but after a few hours I would overcome this state of despondency and pledge to devote myself to studies. And in no time I would work out a timetable. So now, after listening to the tongue lashing of the elder brother, narrator is in a state of despondency, and finally he prepares his mind to make a timetable and follow it and devote himself completely to studies. Now children, let us see what is the timetable. The timetable is as follows. Get up at 6 in the morning, wash, have breakfast and sit down to study. English from 6 to 8, arithmetic from 8 to 9, history from 9 to 9:30, then food and to school. Return from school at 3:30, relax for half an hour, geography from 4 to 5, grammar from 5 to 6, a half an hour stroll in front of the hostel, then eat, translation from 8 to 9, Hindi from 9 to 10, miscellaneous subjects from 10 to 11, then sleep. But to make a timetable is one thing, to put it into practice is another. The volition would begin on the very first day. The green fields, the gentle breeze, the run and chase in football, the speed and quickness in volleyball, all these would drag me out and I would forget everything. And my brother would get his opportunity to admonish and sermonize. Even then, I was not able to give up play. Although, finally, when the narrator decides to make a timetable and devote himself to studies, and also he made a timetable, as you can see, and he has not given a single minute for himself to play. But making a timetable is one thing, but following it is a different thing. So whenever he sees the green fields, the gentle breeze and the run and chase in football and all the games, whenever he sees, it drags him, it attracts him, and he would forget everything. He would forget about his studies, about his timetable, and again he feels that his elder brother gets an opportunity to scold him, to admonish him, but still then he could not give up playing. So children, in my next video we will move forward in the next half of the story, but before that I would like you to turn your pages to the question answer part. Here you can see on the screen of yours. Also, I would like to think about an answer to the first question. Here you can see, the elder brother was not good at academics. How does the narrator convey this? I think in the first few paragraphs the narrator has conveyed that how his elder brother was not good at academics. I think all of you can jot down the points in any of your rough notebook or in your homework book, so that when the school reopens we can discuss the answers. Also, you can answer this question also. Question number C, you can see here children. Describe the timetable drawn up by the narrator. However, the intent and reality completely different. That means what he has mentioned in the timetable and how he was following. What is the difference between these two? You have to note it down. Also, I think you must have got the information about what was the difference in the routines of the two brothers. I think these three questions you can think about in the first few paragraphs which I explained it to you in this video, and just note down the points. When the school reopens we can discuss those points, and I hope you have understood the first few paragraphs which I have explained it to you now. Let us move on to the next half of the story in my next video.